Leaving Las Vegas on top of the world. Tom sang his heart out. Catherine wore hers on her sleeve. And the fans back home went crazy. Arise, Sir Joe. That's what some of you want to hear in tribute to arguably our greatest ever boxer. Thanks for all your comments all day after Joe Calzaghe won in the early hours of yesterday. Norma Dixon from Abercarn got in touch to say, make him a knight. Well, let's go to Abercarn now and Gareth Lewis.
Thanks very much, Sean. Good evening. Well, legendary status has to begin somewhere, and it was in these humble surroundings that Joe Calzaghe and team laid the foundations for success out in Las Vegas in the early hours of yesterday morning. You couldn't really get a bigger contrast, could you, between the neon glare of Las Vegas and what's really an industrial estate in the Gwent Valleys. Now, Calzaghe won on his US debut at a new weight, light heavyweight, beating an American great, Bernard Hopkins, in the process. It was well worth staying up until 5 o'clock for, but it was nail-biting. It was close. There was the agonising wait for a decision from the judges, which was split, but there was only one winner. Cue celebrations in the ring and amongst the thousands of Welsh fans, both in Las Vegas and back home in Newbridge Rugby Club, for a Welsh sporting legend. Boxing is box office in Vegas. Hollywood stars, as is the norm at these events, were in the Thomas and Mack Centre to add the glamour to the grit.
I wouldn't miss it for the world, and for him to be in Vegas for the first time in this arena is just sensational. Look at the fan. Whoa!
Tom Jones gave John Redwood a run for his money with his version of the national anthem. Calzaghe wasn't word perfect either, knocked down for only the third time in his career in round one, but he dug deep in a hard and dirty fight to maintain his undefeated record in his 45 professional contests.
Come a long way from home 2 weeks before the fight, fought at a new weight for the first time, got put down in the first round, still managed to win. So, tremendously happy, very proud of the support I've had over here.
So what next? Maybe another American legend. Four-weight world champion Roy Jones Jr. was part of BBC Radio Wales' commentary team and at the post-fight press conference.
I don't want to ruin your night because you had a good night tonight, and I'm not here to bother you, but I am making my reservation to come on over there. So if you do want to do it, I'm ready.
Listen, man, I've always been a big fan of you, Roy. He's a top man.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Top fan, top man.
There's a lot of things to consider, you know, him being one of them. But at the end of the day, it's Joe's decision, and we'll see how it all stacks up financially, and obviously, you know, if he feels that he wants to fight Roy Jones.
So it's time to reflect and celebrate, and thousands of miles in every way from Las Vegas, that's exactly what's been happening in Calzaghe's hometown of Newbridge.
I think he's really put Newbridge and Wales on the map, and that's fact I think he done for British boxing out there, absolutely tremendous.
You just feel that he's a local boy, like a family person. And I think that's important.
When you think of Enzo, the work that he's put in, not one, not two, but 3 world champions you've had up until recently, which I think is a fantastic achievement in itself.
The Welshman's never really been one for the glare of the spotlight. For now, he'll retreat for a well-earned break in the glare of the Caribbean sun. Well, after all the hullabaloo had died down, Joe was in reflective mood. He spoke to BBC Sport correspondent James Munro, who asked him what it felt like to be a two-weight world champion.
Yeah, feeling great. You know, to be a two-weight world champion, always been one of my ambitions, and you know, to come to Las Vegas and fight, you know, a tough fight and win, especially after the start I had. Obviously, nightmare start, getting flash knocked down in the first round against a very dirty fighter. You know, he was very negative. You know, he was spoiling, he hit me with his head and holding on, and basically I just had to keep my patience throughout the fight, and just really happy to win.
And what about the support you had here from Welsh fans, the support back home that you had as well?
Oh yeah, the fans are fantastic. What can I say? You know, I'm really happy. I thank all the fans that come out to support me and spend the money. I'm just happy that I could make them have a good night with a victory, and for everybody that watched at home, I'm very thankful. Thanks.
So what next for you, Joe? I mean, we heard Roy Jones last night asking you for November in Cardiff as a possible fight.
Yeah, that's a possibility. You know, we'll have to wait and see. At the end of the day, you know, I'm just gonna enjoy this, go on holidays now next week for a while, and come back and weigh up my options. You know, I can go back down to super middleweight, still make the weight, or I felt quite comfortable light heavy as well. So it's great to have that option. So I'll come back, but you know, I'm gonna fight probably one more fight in my career, and it's gonna have to be a big fight. You know, it's got to be a super fight.
So you'll rule out retirement, but you think one more fight left?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, and Roy Jones is definitely on the short list. What can I say? He's a legend, isn't he? And you know, call me a legend. You know, legend beat at the end of the day. You know, what can I say? Legend killer, more like. You know, I'll take care of so-called legend in Hopkins, and hopefully Roy Jones. Who knows?
Joe Calzaghe, a true world-class sportsman, and let's make the most of him because that next fight is very, very likely to be his last. Sian.
Gareth, thank you very much. Well, in amongst all the Hollywood celebs yesterday morning, our very own Jason Mohammed, and he's literally just got back into the country. Jason, great to see you, safe and sound. You were soaking up the atmosphere there. What was it like?
It was amazing. I mean, Welsh Sport just doesn't do events like that. You know, to be in Las Vegas, you know, a small part of Las Vegas, the Thomas and Mack Convention Centre, just turned into a huge part of Wales. You know, I've never experienced a sporting event like it. To see so many Welsh fans there, people from all over the country had gone to Las Vegas, spent lots of money to follow Joe Calzaghe. They got into the venue very early on, and you know, it had this feeling of like a football or rugby match. You know, everywhere you went in the Las Vegas Strip, the bars were full of fans. You know, early before the fight began, just soaking up the atmosphere, thoroughly enjoying themselves. But you know, the creme de la creme was when the celebrities came into that venue. You know, it really was an A-list evening. Jay-Z, the big, huge rapper, of course. Catherine Zeta-Jones there with her daffodil. Bryn Terfel. I'm not too sure if you mentioned Bryn was there. I'm not too sure about Tom's version of the anthem, though.
No, I didn't know Bryn was there, actually. But what do the Americans then make of him now?
Well, the Americans, all week last week on Wales Today, I was telling you that the Americans really took to Joe Calzaghe simply because they loved his approach, they loved the way he was, compared to Bernard Hopkins and his abrasive style, taking on almost every journalist and every fan that he encountered, really. So they loved having Joe and Enzo around. Were they impressed by his performance? Probably not. By his own admission, it wasn't a vintage Joe Calzaghe performance, and he made a nightmare start, being knocked down for only the third time in his career. But I think what they would be impressed with was the way he bounced back and won that fight. I think they would be much more impressed if he goes on to beat Roy Jones Jr. We understand that might be a two-fight deal that he's got coming up, one possibly in Cardiff, and then another fight with Roy Jones Jr. in Madison Square Garden, which is somewhere Joe has always wanted to fight in New York City. So at the moment we think that might be a possibility. It's a two-fight deal as opposed to a one-fight deal. But then after that, I think Joe will say, look, that's it, I'm done.
And Jason, possibly a nice trip for you there then. Thank you.